Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Block Sauce, your weekly web show that serves up the juiciest discussions in the world of Web3 and gaming culture. I'm your host and ReNFT ambassador, Jin Kieran, and today we've got an excellent panel lined up for you guys, so grab a controller, crack open a Mountain Dew, and prepare to get your game on. Let's go! What's up, sauce enthusiasts? It's time to bring the heat with another electrifying of The Block Sauce. Today, as you can tell, we got some new faces over here. So, of course, we're going to introduce Graslow real quick. Building Oldor. Any news updates?
News.
Come on.
Yeah, it's coming soon. We have a big announcement coming very soon.
All right. Make sure you guys check out his space every Wednesday to keep up on Oldor. Again, building a game. Awesome. Love to see it. We also have Dougie Hype for the first time. If you are not familiar with Doug Hype, you're definitely living under a rock. You need to check him out. He's all over Web3 spaces. Shows.
Even if you're under a rock, I will find you.
So how you doing, Doug? What you got building going on right now? I know you work with Crypto Stash on his show too.
I'm just getting like presents every day. People give me things like I got this at Eat Denver. My life's full of working with cool games, having a fun show, and making really exciting, fun content. In fact, look at, I've got bloaters now. I've got silk horse heads. Like I'm surrounded. I'm living my best life. Like, you know, Jim Kieran, when you were a kid, which was, you were very young, so it was probably like a year ago, but you're like, man, I wish one day I could just be one of those dudes that had rooms full of cool stuff and I could play video games all day and just hang out with my bros and my friends. And that's what we do now. This is what we do. We're doing it. This is what we do. So everyone out there, congratulations.
I need to clear something up. Look, I know I shaved and it knocked like 20 years off of how I appear, but I am 33 years old, okay?
Then Kieran, whatever you're doing right now, do that. Whatever you're doing right now with the hat and the hair thing, like you're giving me like dub vibes right now. You know what I mean?
Oh
like dub vibes where like you got the long hair.
I think he's got a
Next thing you know, Jim Kieran's gonna be like the poster boy for Web3 gaming. You're just gonna be like walking to GDC and there's Jim Kieran just like looking like a badass, you know what I'm saying? Like there, and all the people coming over from Tokyo are like, oh, who's that Jim Kieran, man? He looks like he should be an anime character.
I'm just gonna be walking up into Web3 conventions like
look
John
at your
Cena music playing in the background.
And everything, Jim Kieran. Just look at that jawline, Jim Kieran. You're like the #1 jaw in Web3. You're like Jay Leno walked out. Here comes Jay.
Oh my gosh. And of course, we have Kimberly with us from Earn Alliance. She is the CMO over there. Kimberly, how are you doing today? What you got going on?
I'm doing amazing. Excited to be here. I don't. It's hard to follow that, but we got a lot going on. We'll talk a little bit about Last Remains. Great things going on there. What we're doing at Earn Alliance. So stoked to be here and can't wait to dive into it.
It's not true. You're the #1 person on this panel. You're even in 8-bit right now. Look at that pixelated look. I wish I could pull that off.
That's just for you, Dougie. That's just for you. She's
I love
crystal
8-bit.
clear on my end.
Oh shit.
Oh my gosh. So I know that we're going to talk about Last Remains here in a little bit. I don't want to jump into it just yet. Sorry, I got to dangle that carrot on the stick for you, Kimberly, but we will definitely be touching on that today because I got to play in last weekend's test and I had a blast. So you guys know that I got to sit there and promote it. So for now, we're going to go ahead and jump into Square Enix. For those that missed Crypto Stash's tweet, it looks like they are building something on Engine, which kind of strikes me as a little odd. Now, Square Enix has been in Web3 for a while. If you're not familiar with their project Symbiogenesis, that has been an ongoing thing. I want to say about a year now. It's pretty close to the year mark, I'm pretty sure. But they were building on an Oasis. So to see them launch something in the veins of Final Fantasy VII, mind you, because the tokens did have the label Final Fantasy VII. I think it was Rebirth or something like that. So it seems like it's going to coincide with their new game somehow. I don't know if it's like an integration or just a digital collectible. We don't know anything yet because all I've seen is a tweet. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Like, I know that there are games across the board kind of jumping between chain to chain trying to figure out what works. Do you think this is just another case of that?
Well, I have heard Engine mentioned a few times lately, so maybe they're making a play and really trying to attract new IP. And speaking of IP, like Final Fantasy VII, that's pretty big IP. I suspect that this is probably a digital collectible play. It's not necessarily going to be integrated in the game, but still, that's a great move. I mean, I think anytime we have big IP come into the space, that it gets people's attention. It kind of legitimizes NFTs and what's going on when you tell your kind of normie friends about like NFTs and what they are. When they see like a monkey picture or whatever, they're like, what is this? Why is this worth, many thousands of dollars? But when you show them like, something that's actually legitimate IP, it's licensed, it's, Final Fantasy, it's Warner Brothers, whatever. I think that that does offer some legitimacy and kind of incentivizes them to kind of take a closer look.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing a lot of folks kind of dabble in crypto. You can kind of see it in their job descriptions and open roles that they have. I mean, Zynga and Ubisoft and those companies, they're starting to dabble in it. I think it's still going to take a minute, but I think it's good for the space. So the more we see it, that's better for all of us that are in this space. And I agree, like IP, people who have big IP right now, it's an easier move for them. So I think it's a good time. It's going to take some time, just like it did for studios to get into things like free to play and stuff like that. But I think the signs are there that something's coming.
Karen, when Final Fantasy VII reboots, remake, Part 2, Part 4 on Web3? That's all I want to know. I know you're a big WoW player, okay? You love World of Warcraft, you love MMOs. When that came out, I was playing Final Fantasy 11, and I freaking love that game. I was farming the tiger tusks or whatever, like the tiger tooths that you could sell for like 2,000 gems. I was just camping out there, and I was obsessed. I was like, I needed to get this next sword. I love that game so much, and then I just stopped playing it because I couldn't progress, and I went to start playing other games. But if you can recapture some of that magic from those glory days of Final Fantasy, like the early days of Final Fantasy, oh my God, like Web3 could completely explode just from that. I mean, the fervor, we're talking about IP, bro, of all gaming in the world. Of course, we've got like Nintendo, which has been dominant. Number 2 to that for me, as far as just like for gamers, for hardcore gamers, is like Final Fantasy, maybe because of that lore. And then you have stuff like Madden and all these sports games too, also, which are huge and make big sales. But when you talk about an IP and a character and stuff, those sports games don't have that. Final Fantasy's like 7 and all this stuff, Cloud, people still dress up as Cloud and freaking conventions and love him. I mean, it's a cultural phenomenon. And who knows, maybe they come out with Final Fantasy 28 or whatever number it is. But if they could do something Web3-ish, like my whole room would be full of like Cloud characters. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just Cloud, I believe, is just the, computer version of myself. All right. That's just what it is.
See, my only concern is, yes, Ubisoft, Square Enix, all these companies are moving over, and they've got, whether it be like into like separate or developers, they got teams in the space. But when was the last time you saw Square Enix advertising Symbiogenesis on main? Their marketing efforts towards their Web3 incentives feels kind of lacking. It's like they're scared to blast it out on their main accounts. They're like doing all of it through micro accounts and influencers. And I understand the hesitation with the lashback we've seen with Web3. I get it, the stigmas. But if these big players aren't going to make a stand, how are we going to convince these gamers that these collectibles are worth it? Like in the sense of the Final Fantasy VII one, for example, you're talking about a single player campaign, no online functionality. How does Web3 benefit this? How does it tie into there? And what are these collectibles going to be for? You see what I'm saying? And that's how gamers are going to look at it. Why should I buy this? It's just a picture on their website. What does it actually do? Now, if I bought it and it gave me a redeemable code to actually get the game and use it on my PlayStation or whatever platform, that's one way to start enticing people. But we haven't
what's
seen
going to happen. That merge where it's like they start as just like fun little things, and eventually it becomes more. We're creeping closer and closer. They're testing the waters, and the more they make money off of it, the more they're just like, oh, we'll just keep doing this, And when it becomes a thing, and then but once it hits that threshold where like a bunch of big games start doing it, and then everyone and it benefits them, then it's just going to be absolutely everywhere. So it's like the dam, where everything is just pushing up against the goddamn dam, and then bam. All of a sudden, Web3 everywhere. I feel like you guys are agreeing with me now.
You know,
I mean, that's true, but who's going to
Yeah.
be the one to actually make that stand is
Us
kind
right
of what
now,
I'm getting
the
at.
show right now.
I think it's going to be it's going to be a balance of like all these builders in Web3 and all these kind of these bigger IPs and these bigger studios that are going to start to understand like, educating like what the value is of doing these things on blockchain and being able to have collectibles and being able to play games and hang on to the things that you've collected and brought and hopefully taken to other games, right? Like as this goes, I think it's just going to be a process and it's going to take a minute, but education is going to be key. And I think some of these smaller companies are really going to be the ones that start to be the bridge and it starts to work. And then that's why these companies are dipping their toes in, right? Because they're sniffing around. They're seeing that these kind of smaller, these builders are doing things and not to get into last remains yet. But when you have a game that feels like a AAA game, but has, this kind of blockchain ecosystem around it, but you're still thinking, you're feeling the game. That's when we get to it. I always like to use this comparison as like, we talk about music, but there was a time where everybody was like MP3, I just got my MP3. Well, nobody talks about that tech anymore because it's just the tech. And so that's where we need to get, right? We're playing a game. It doesn't matter if it's blockchain. It doesn't matter where it came from. We're playing a game. There's no, most people don't even know that there was a Web 2 to even be talking about Web 3. So let's just talk about games. They're fun
It's
to
now
play.
crypto gaming,
They're hard to play.
There's a new name.
Just gaming, I think. That's where we're going to get, right?
No, crypto gaming is a flex because we're better than regular gaming now.
Oh my
because-
gosh,
I think that's what's going to happen, though, right? Like gamers are going to discover, like, oh shit, there's actually
This
more
happened
value
at Denver
in
where
this.
everyone started calling it crypto gaming because they become so excited and seeing how great. I mean, people are just so excited about the market, the gaming, and everything together, and they're like, it's crypto gaming now. It's like you could feel like across the metaverse that this thing happened where people are like, dude, we are on the project. They can see the future that we're on this trajectory to where crypto gaming becomes the cool thing now, as opposed to things that people avoid.
So
You get
I'm
to
on
own it.
Kimberly's side. Yeah, well, I'm on Kimberly's side. So at some point, it does just need to become gaming. The reason we're making this distinction right now is because people are looking to make profits. Let's be honest. When you're using the term Web3 gaming or crypto gaming or play to earn, these are Web3 native terminologies, and you're not using these if you're trying to cater to a Web2 audience. You never want to, because right out the gate, if you tell somebody, oh, it's a crypto game or it's a blockchain game, unless you have educated that person on how this technology is beneficial to them first, they're immediately going to be turned off. And you can see this from every single game that launches on Steam. And you can look at the reviews and be like, ew, it's NFTs, ew, it's blockchain, ew, there's crypto. Until we tear down that barrier and give people a reason to actually learn past the headlines that they're reading that are 99% negative anyway, because all the headlines are writing negative articles. Like, that's just what it is. Like, for example, I last year, I think it was when Ethereum moved to proof of stake, I was like, well, where's the articles talking about the reduced energy consumption? There were none. Only the Web3 natives knew this, and that's what we're trying to overcome right now. Is we have to not only educate players and convince them that this technology is worthwhile, we're also fighting against the media, who is always trying to steer people away from these new technologies, whether it be out of fear, whether it be them just trying to get those clicks, whatever the case is. We're not just combating the stigma in the gamer space. We are combating the stigma on a much larger scale. And until that is addressed and we find a way to make people care about this, I just don't see crypto gaming being the label that we need to apply to ourselves right now. But I also understand, like you were saying, Doug, there are people here that believe Web3 is a superior game and they want that distinction. And I see it all over the timeline. No, we need to call it Web3. We need to call it crypto gaming. In the Web3 space, I would agree 100% because people want to know. I was just talking about a Web2 game this morning and somebody's like, oh, it's crazy. We never see Web3 games with Mac clients. And I was like, well, it's because it's not a Web3 game. And then they assumed I was talking Web3 just because I'm a Web3 native.
But the thing is that we didn't start this origin, Kieran. Web2 did. They're the ones that are like, Web3 and crypto gaming is the worst. Get it out of here. You go into any Reddit forum and they're like, oh, did you say NFT banned? Like, that's literally the sentiment of Web2 gaming. And how do you overcome that? You can slowly merge over a period of like 30 years, or you can be like, hey, crypto gaming, get the F out of my way. We're here and we rock. And then people go like, whoa, what is that? That seems cool. I want to check that out. It seems like they're having a great freaking time, and it's awesome. Your energy that you're bringing, when we go to GDC, Jim Curran, they're going to know. Every single person there is going to know, and they're going to be like, dude, what is it? What is it? I need to figure it out. I need to learn about this, and we're going to break through the dam.
I love Dougie's optimism, but I'm a half glass full type of person here. I really think that
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that we need both.
I know.
Because we need both of those things. We need integrity and we need things that actually matter. And then we also need people to get excited about it, because until they emotionally are okay with it and comfortable, they're never going to do it, right? They just aren't. Yeah. You can give them all the stats you want, but until you get this rising tide of people going like, yes, crypto gaming is awesome, and they see people doing it, they're just never going to cross over.
No,
and we need great games, right? We need great games.
Yeah,
there's a lot of games out there that fucking suck, right? So we need great games.
I didn't know I was bringing Sinjin's other half here. Oh my God.
She came in. Did I take that, or are you gonna cut me off? Did I get a bleep? Did I get bleeped out?
No, you're fine. That was just spicier than I was expecting, to be honest. And I mean,
I come from rock and roll, man.
You're not.
You do. Let's go, baby. Where's my guitar?
But the thing is, we do have good games. I'm going to let Grazzo go.
No. I completely agree. I think we need great games. And while Jim Kieran, you're about to say like we have good games, I think they're just early. Like I think they're too early to start really onboarding mainstream gamers.
Yep.
And I think they'll get there. But where I think that like there's some kind of nuance in both opinions, because I agree with. I mean, I love what Doug was saying. Like I do think there's power in that kind of branding and just the message. Just push it out there, you know. But at the same time, like crypto turns a lot of people off because it's financialization, it's investing, it's, you know, crypto bros or whatever, you know. And I think that's a stigma that we don't necessarily have to overcome to make Web3 gaming successful. Now, on the other side, like blending, you know, the terminology and just saying like it's just gaming and it's all in the back end. I think that kind of ignores what the benefits of Web3 bring to gaming. And you're going to have gamers where, yes, they're not necessarily investors. They're not necessarily looking to earn or make a profit, but they want to know that they can take their assets and do other things with them, that they exist outside of the game itself, that there's transparency, this, you know, provable scarcity, all those other benefits of Web3. So I do think that there's a kind of middle ground there. I personally love the Web3 gaming tag, but you know, I'm all for Doug pushing crypto gaming as like the thing, and we just kind of ride the coattails.
I just think it's figuring out the bridge. Figuring out the bridge, right? It's what is it? The vernacular bridge, like figuring that out.
Semantics. It's all semantics. But no, the thing is, whenever we are promoting the systems that Grazlo was just talking about, you know, like being able to buy, trade, sell, make profits, whatever. I was asked, because I often reference World of Warcraft. You guys know I'm big on World of Warcraft. In Crypto Stash's space the other day, because I was talking about the play to earn, the pseudo play to earn system that Blizzard currently has with World of Warcraft. I can sell my gold essentially for their store credits. So there is a play to earn system. It's just a closed economy that it's all money in and never leaves Blizzard's ecosystem. And he asked me when that was introduced, how many players actually jumped on board and started utilizing that system. I will tell you right now, based on my personal experience. Now, again, I'm not speaking for the whole community, but based on my experience in talking to various guilds and players, I would argue maybe 1 to 3% of players utilize those systems in an actual economic fashion. Most players, if they're doing anything with it, they're just buying the gold. That's all they care about. They're not trying to convert their gold for store currency. They're not trying to pay for their subs with their gold. They're literally just trying to buy the gold directly to save them time grinding in the game. So if you're telling me that we want to use this branding because we're going to cater to 1 to 3% of gamers, that's where I'm like, well, why are we even talking mass adoption? Like you're catering to a very niche type of gamer within these economies. If your focus is Web3, the focus, in my personal opinion, should be the game, and the Web3 element should be an addition to it. That's all we're doing here. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're trying to make the wheel more streamlined and maybe add like a sideways driving function, right? Like we're trying to take it and make it better. And that's what I see us trying to do. But when we label ourselves Web3 gaming, we're kind of separating ourselves from the overall gaming market, right? So are we trying to reinvent the wheel, or are we trying to make good games and add new technology to it?
Well, I will say, like, adding, like, just because you have a feature that's not being utilized doesn't mean that you don't have a ton of people like subscribing or staying subscribed because that feature exists. Like, you see that a lot in tech, you know, where this is a selling point, or just knowing that this exists or this is there is something that keeps people around. You know, one example I'm thinking of is like that's really related to blockchain is like provably fair gambling, where you have this ability to see that the rolls that you made, the hands that you were dealt, whatever, is provably fair. Like, it can't be manufactured by the casino. You know, they can't just like rig it and say, well, you lost, you know, thanks for the money. It's actually like on chain. It's, you know, provably fair. Well, you know, 99 point something percent of people don't actually go and verify that their hands were legit. But knowing that that is possible and that somebody is doing it, you know, is enough to make you trust, you know, and add legitimacy to those sites. So, you know, I think that in a way, like Web3, giving this like on-chain transparency, provable scarcity, and the ability for people to transact, even the players that aren't using that, I think that knowing that that exists is going to be a big selling point to them.
And
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I was going to say is that you bring up an interesting point, but I would argue that for the most part, particularly as we want to get this into mainstream and have mainstream adoption, is that at the end of the day, people don't want to talk about tech. They want to have great experiences. And so maybe from a credibility standpoint, oh, yeah, okay, I feel safe playing here. But at the end of the day, it's about great experiences. And I think that's with anything that is tech related, is like tech is, and I've been in tech for a while on the music side mostly. And what we discovered from that, particularly with fans and fan engagement, is that at the end of the day, fans come back because something sounds great. It's fun to play. It's interesting. And so that tech piece that we're also in love with, because it is amazing. I would argue that I'm not sure that many people actually care about it in mainstream. And I see the goal as this industry, this Web3 gaming industry, and these games that are coming, like the mass adoption and that goal of people coming back again and again and again to play. The only way that happens is that it's easy to onboard, it's easy to understand, and the experience is amazing. And that all that other stuff that we talked about, Web 2, Web 3, you know, this kind of mint, collectibles, NFTs, like when we're here, all of that goes away. That is my very humble opinion.
So you basically hit what I was saying earlier. We got to make them care. Like you have to educate them and give them a reason to actually care about these additions, right? And I'm going to shuffle the topics up a little bit because I was going to go into across the ages since we're talking about branding and stuff like that. But I actually want to hit on Last Remains because we got a comment from Robert here. I hear you repeating this point a lot, Jim Kieran, where it's about the game first and foremost. Are there any projects you know of which tackle this? You'd think that after 2+ years since 2021's promises, at least some projects would be driving this, right? Last Remains has an open alpha playtest coming up March 16th. I got to play in the last one this past weekend, and I'm going to argue that they are actually one of the games that are putting the game first and foremost. I have not seen a token. They already have the NFT like system in the game. So I extracted this weekend and I got a skin, and somebody in my chat was like, "Oh, dude, you got a skin." And I'm like, "Wait, I did?" And they were like, "Yeah, like that's actually live. Like you got an NFT." And I was like, "I didn't know that was already in the game. Oh, cool. I can go sell this, right? Because I don't need it. I've already bought all the skins and stuff I want." And at that point, I was like, now I got to keep going for these skins. I don't care about killing the other players or killing the zombies. I got to go find these skins so I can, deck out my character or all of my characters however I want to go about doing it. And it made me care about the game a lot more. But what really pulled me in was the gameplay first. If I had never touched the game and never gotten the loot that I did and never extracted with it, I wouldn't have had that same level of hype. But the fact that I did get to play the game, I had fun with it, I kept grinding, and eventually had that moment where, that light bulb went off. That's what we're hoping for, I feel like. We're hoping gamers give these games a try. They got that light bulb moment where, oh, wait, I can actually trade this. I can sell it. I can go buy some more if I want to. And they realize there's an actual economy that isn't just this developer throwing these half-baked skins out, hoping you spend $10 every day buying a new skin. These are actual assets that you have control of. You can sell it, trade it, whatever. It's not locked to your account. It's not locked to your character. There's a lot more flexibility with these systems. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, Web 2 games can do this. Look at CSGO. You're not wrong, but there's more to it than that, because Last Remains might not be their last game. And maybe the next game you can carry all that stuff to it. Look at Call of Duty Warzone. What happened when Warzone 1 shut down? Everybody lost all their skins and they never carried into the next game. Lots of people were upset, hundreds of dollars down the drain. I'm one of those people who had a bunch of skins and lost them all, you know? So there's definitely benefits that just haven't been realized yet. And there are fun games coming out. I was playing in Shrapnel's new STX actually before this show, getting my hands on the latest changes and updates too. I think they're going to be doing really well. Metalcore, rough edges, but could potentially be a breakthrough game if we're lucky. I think there are genuine games coming out, Robert, 100%, and they are trying to tackle this game first. But, you know, Shrapnel did launch a token first. They also had multiple mints first. Last Remains did have mints, but no token. I'm correct, right? Kimberly should be more familiar with it. Okay.
Yep.
Is there plans for a token?
There could be plans for a token.
She said that very liberally, so I think that's a topic we're not going to dig into too much. We don't want you in trouble.
No comment. It sounded like there's nothing to see here.
Nothing to see. Probably nothing. Probably nothing.
We don't want to get Kimberly in trouble, Doug.
Like gestures on her face.
But you know, it's funny because like I can leave now because you just really covered Last Remains really, really well. So thank you for that, because that was actually amazing. I think one of the things that I want to add, though, you know, this extraction thing, if you don't get out, you lose your shit. Mm-hmm. So like you could be collecting, and if you don't,
I lost a lot before I finally got anything. So I'm just saying it's a risk reward game, and I love it. The anxiety that you get when you're like sneaking through the city, you got an NFT on you and you're like, I got to get out. And then like you see a player or a zombie come rushing at you, your heart just sinks. And depending on how chill you are, I had a few brain fart moments where I'm like, no, my NFT, what do I do? Oh no. And then I die. And it's like, well, I probably should have been a little more level headed.
Yeah, but you go on. You go.
I was just gonna say, like, so talking about the comments, because like I'm one as a player, you know, like I want the game first, and I'm really passionate about people that are building, you know, with the game as the focus and not the token and the NFTs. But you know, it is interesting when you're really following the meta and like what's working and who's successful. You know, obviously, like some of the biggest mints have been from projects that have shown no gameplay and continue to show no gameplay. And when they do, if they do, it's usually negative for everything. And so I was just reading before this panel started, like I was just reading a really long thread by SparkC on Twitter. SparkC is a WolfsDAO, a prominent analyst of Web3 gaming projects. And he's talking about, you know, a lot of the things that work in Web2 gaming do not work in Web3 gaming. They're not what the investor crowd wants to see. And then you have all these pressures when you're thinking about the game studio. You know, you want gamers eventually. You know, that's your core customer. Today, your customer may be speculators and investors who want to buy NFTs or tokens and want those values to go up, or they want to see that you're going to, you know, pop off in the future. And then you've got VCs who are your backers, and they, depending on which one you're talking to, may want you to be appealing more to Web3, more appealing to gamers, and there's this whole mix. And then it's, how do you tackle marketing? Do you do marketing towards gamers and you're getting traditional like content creators and doing ad buys, which I see very few of on Twitter and YouTube and everything else? Or are you advertising just on like Web3 channels and Web3 influencers? And, you know, so it's tough. It's tough to figure out like what your plan is.
So what you're telling me is,
I'm going to jump in. I was going to jump in on that, just on the marketing side, because I have a little background in it, just particularly with Last Remains, because I think this goes to this whole idea of making a great game, as we have done zero marketing. We have just let people come in and play and talk about it. And to me, that's the best marketing. So when we turn on those, when, I always say we have a spark and then we have a little fire and then we're going to throw some gasoline on it. But we've done zero marketing. I'm here to speak the truth on that. And that really comes back to like this conversation about like great game. But there are challenges like, figuring out who is playing the game. Are these Web 2 gamers? Are they Web 3 gamers? Like we're going to figure all that out. Right now, it feels very actual balanced. But again, they're real challenges. But it comes back to like, to me, play. It always comes back to play or something that you have to do. And so I just had to drop that in there.
No, you're right. I actually didn't even realize Last Remains was on Epic Games until I saw a post from Coop last week. And I'm like, wait, you guys made it to Epic? I'm used to like just going to the website and downloading the client or whatever, And he's like, oh, yeah, anybody can download it now. And I was like, okay. So what that tells me is, Doug, you need to get Epic Games open. You need to start downloading the game. Me and you going to go kill some zombies on the 16th.
I'm doing it right now. I'm downloading the game right now.
See you on the 16th, right?
Oh man, no, I really did have a blast in this past play test. I mean, there was a little salt whenever the zombies kept grouping up on me, and I felt a little teamed up on. I'm like, there was a comment that I made on my stream. It was something about well, crap. If I wanted an orgy, I'd get on Grindr.
We need more Jim Karen jokes like that. We need more. Way more.
Okay. I'm going to write that one down.
Jim Karen. We
There
need
were
way
so
more.
many zombies. I actually did not die to a player. I played, I think it was probably 3-4 hours. I didn't die to a player once. In fact, I killed probably 5 or 6 players. But those zombies, they buffed them up from the last time I played, and they used to be kind of slow and clunky. And it's like, okay, this is kind of easy. Just be quiet. Don't go near them. No, now you make one of those zombies angry, that sucker sprint straight for you. He is on you. You try to run away, unless you're doing parkour, you are not getting away. They changed the game. So the PvE is actually, in my opinion, harder than the PvP, which isn't a bad thing. I actually really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. Like I said, there was a little salt involved, but that happens anytime I'm losing. I mean, let's be honest, nobody likes losing. So, and if you do, well, as long as you have fun with the game, that's all that matters.
They asked me for a creator tag. I don't have one, but I'm downloading it anyways.
And
right
for
now.
those who haven't played it, myself included, so they had 3, they're having 3 alpha tests. February 17th and March 2nd are already done, and then March 16th. Yep. And so this may be the last chance to play while they cook some more.
Yep, and I will say hang on, more alpha.
I think you'll be able to check it out and cook some more. We're working on some interesting things. There'll be a weight system coming up, so you'll have to be mindful of what NFTs you want to attract, so you can get out, because the weight will affect that. So there'll be more. Again, we are getting people to come play, and we are building in the open. So come play, check it out.
And it was
new
crazy.
Shit coming all the time.
For no marketing, like she's saying, I had no issues finding matches at all during the last play test. Like every time I queued up, there was people ready and waiting. Again, this is the second game I've seen, Shrapnel being the first, where I can just jump into lobby after lobby after lobby for hours on end and not have to wait on people. So we do have great games that are obviously attracting gamers. It's just they are not finished yet. We're still waiting on those 1.0 releases. So back to what Graslow was saying about we're early. It's not the stereotypical Web3, oh, we're early. No, it's that these games are literally just not finished type of early. And he's accurate 110%.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why we're doing these alpha plays too, right? Like we want the community involved. We want the feedback. We have 100,000 downloads now. We've got 20,000 active users. Like, again, it's just, it just comes back to play. I mean, obviously I work with Last Remains, so I'm touting it, but I just think I'm a big believer in this space. I mean, I popped over from music to jump into gaming, Web3 gaming a few years ago, because I really got into like crypto and the value when I thought NFTs could be for this industry and for music. And so, when I see numbers like this, it gets me very excited. And when I meet builders like you it's just an exciting time. So I think as an industry, it's just great. And then I'm always thinking about fans. Like that's where I live. That's what I built my career on is fans and creating fandoms. And that's what we're trying to do at Last Remains and at Earn Alliance. Is like we just want to build great fans. We want gamers to find games. We want developers to make great games. So we're all here doing that.
If I remember correctly, Last Remains is actually an in-house development project from Earn Alliance, correct? Because I know you guys promote a lot of games.
We have a studio.
Yeah.
This is our game studio. So think of us like the Netflix. We got this game discovery, and we're making content and IP and games. So yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting time. I think it's an exciting time right now. With the space, obviously, we're all seeing these signs of like there's good things coming. I mean, there's shit happening in the AAA gaming world, but there's some exciting stuff happening, and I think all of us that we're able to kind of grind it out right now. I think we're going to see the fruits of our labor. So, I'm just stoked.
And I agree with you. So our next topic, I'm not sure we have much to add because a lot of it's pretty much covered in Square Enix, building on engine. We got Across the Ages with the Watch Dog crossover. So an Ubisoft IP, they've partnered up with it. I mean, this seems to be becoming a bit more common. Square Enix building on engine. You got Across the Ages teaming up with Ubisoft and Watch Dogs. Mixed Mob got licensing rights to Star Wars. What was it? Oh Baby Cart got SpongeBob. Like, we're starting to see people realize, hey, let's work with these big brands. I feel like it definitely brings in that legitimization that we were talking about earlier. So I don't know if you guys have anything else to throw in about the topic, but feel free.
The only thing I'll add is, I think last cycle taught us, or at least it should have, that just because big IP is involved doesn't mean that we should trust it. But I think to normies, like it does, like it does give you that legitimacy. But, we saw in the last cycle, a lot of the big brand plays in this space seemed very extractive. They didn't have any like long-term support. And like the point you made earlier, Jim Kieran, they weren't even trying to bring in their Web2 audiences that they already have. They were just trying to get the liquidity that they were seeing in the NFT space. We saw, I won't name names, but I mean, we saw like.
Come on, Graslow. Okay, I can't bite my tongue anymore. Just at Recur already.
You remember the Lord of the Rings DVD thing? And I loved Nifty's, which was they were a startup, so they're not like a big IP play, but they partnered with like Warner Brothers, Paramount, a number of others. I mean, I'll just tell you, like I bought like $35,000 worth of NFTs on Nifty's, and I mean, all that's like worthless now. It's like when those deals kind of run out, if the big IP brands like didn't see what they wanted out of it, or it didn't take off or whatever, they're done. Now, if you're a game and you can license and you can use that, like a Fortnite does, that's great. That's a great move because it adds legitimacy. It brings new attention. It gives you a headline. It's fun for your gamers. But just because a big brand does something, I don't know that we should say like, all right, that's the thing we should all, put our money and time in.
I don't disagree with you. Like I said, Recur, I saw their Nickelodeon NFTs and I wanted to jump all over them, but then I was like, well, what's the use case? Like, where's the utility? What do they do? And once I found out how they all operated, I was like, I ain't touching that with a 10-foot pole. But I think this also kind of opens the argument of these licensed IPs. The companies behind them need to hold these companies accountable. Like Recur, Nickelodeon should have done something about Recur before it became a problem. They just shut everything down and rugged all their holders, right? So I feel like, yes, we're licensed, we're legit, does kind of have a ring to it, because I would like to believe that these companies are holding them accountable. But at the end of the day, anybody can throw money at a licensing deal. And obviously these companies that are dishing out the licenses aren't holding anybody accountable. They're like, oh, well, they rug pulled. Well, we just won't work with them again. And that's not a good look for Web3 either, because it's going to make it a lot harder to get those licensing deals moving forward if that continues to occur. Thankfully, Oh Baby Cart, Mixed Mob, all the ones that we've talked about so far today that are doing these, they do have games. So they will be utilizing them at, like you were talking about with the Fortnite situation, within their own IPs. And I think that's going to be great. So I got my fingers crossed. I want to see more of these deals. I'm still waiting on Blizzard to pull their head out their butt and get me something with World of Warcraft, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'm crying. Let's see. Look, I'm sad. All right. I almost had a Blizzard rep on this show, and then they found out it was Web3, and they're like, nope, I'm out. Okay, bye. And I was like, man.
Dude, I'm not lying. I said they started a war and we're going to finish it, you Karen.
No, I think Blizzard
Yeah,
has
I
their
believe
own
that.
plans. I think
They
Blizzard's
won't even
working
come on
something
a
in the
freaking
background.
Twitter show because Web3 is being talked about.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, especially now that they've been bought out by Microsoft, and Microsoft has, we saw those document leaks. There was talks of a wallet at some point. We're not saying it's happening or that it will happen, just that it was an idea they had. So if Microsoft is open to Web3, they bought out Battle.net. I'm holding out hope I can see some World of Warcraft something on the blockchain one of these days. I doubt it's going to happen.
They need to do
but I can
something,
dream.
and they only care about money, so like probably will do it.
I can dream, Harold. But
everyone's going to come to the party at some point. So again, I just go back. Everybody's going to come to the party at some point.
Maybe that's their play with MetaQuest is that they have World of Warcraft VR. You know what I'm saying? And then they're going to have to do Web3 to just,
Nah. We can't even bring World of Warcraft to console with native controller support already in the game. Come on.
Are we going to remind them of their like past stuff? Like when Pepsi does another Web3 thing, are we going to be like, you remember that mic drop you guys did?
No one's going to even think about it because it's going to be like, the bull market. Like when we were talking about Grindr and orgies and stuff, no one cares about the losses that you had in the past when you're winning. You forget about all that stuff and people just start having a good time and they just see money, little symbols in their eyes. And, whatever, that's just how it works, bro.
Well, did you have something else?
No, I was just going to say, it's like music. Like, you could never have a hit, never have a hit. You have a hit and everyone else is like, oh yeah, I fucking love that band. And then you're like, oh my God, you thought that band sucked 5 years ago. Now they have a hit and you're on the fucking bandwagon.
Oh,
so,
of course.
Yeah, it's like...
Unfortunately, we will have some not good news to end this on. So Aurora Tactics is shutting down, which I have mixed feelings on. Like, they're shutting it down so they can focus on their main game. Aurora Tactics is more of like a little spin-off that they had been using to support while they build the actual full title. So I feel like they're just shifting focus and they don't want to focus on the mini game anymore. They want to actually continue to support and build out the main game. I've tried the main game. It's actually kind of nice. I'm not going to say it's going to like kill Pokemon or anything like that because it's definitely in the same vein as Pokemon. But it is pretty good for a monster catching game inside of Web3. So I think if they do focus on it and they try to set themselves apart somehow, because right now the combat is very, very similar, but there is one key difference that does shift things up. I think if they lean into that more and try to shift it up so it doesn't feel as close to Pokemon, they're going to find a core audience and they're going to do well. So I don't think this is a bad thing, but in the same vein, we did talk about, I think it was November of last year, they ran a report, 75% of crypto games have failed or shut down. And it's like, when I hear that statistic, I'm kind of worried about Aurora because if you kind of develop a plan, essentially, like they wanted to use this mini game to support the main game, and now all of a sudden the plan is changing, that tells me something's not working. That they're having to adjust fire, and they're putting all their eggs into one basket now that the main game is going to be what helps support them long term. I'm kind of a fan of putting your eggs in multiple baskets and trying to cater to multiple audiences. So I really mixed feelings here. What do you guys think?
I wonder if this is what's happening in the AAA space, which is, cutbacks and looking at your budget, tightening the belt, just really kind of making sure that you're, not overextended and thinking about the investing market if you needed to raise more funds. So, I mean, that could be it. Could just be like they looked at, where their focus was and they just were too spread out. I'm like you, Jim Kieran. I do think having multiple projects is great when you can afford it, when you can justify it. But I mean, I don't know behind the scenes the thinking, but just the timing seems like it could be like what's happening in the general gaming industry.
That's true.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because like it feels like we're kind of entering in this new era of wealth on the blockchain side, but we're still seeing like all these layoffs. And so this timing it's just interesting of timing. And, it takes a lot of money to build a game. It takes a lot of time for the money to start like flowing. And so maybe it's just a timing. It's kind of like a weird timing thing.
Doug, have you tried Aurora yet?
I haven't. I actually was gonna potentially do some work with them, but I just got too busy, and then things didn't work out.
I thought you were a Web3 gamer, but what Web3 games have you been playing?
Literally, while we were talking, I was playing Shrapnel. So go back and watch the tape. Go back like 20 minutes and watch me. I'm like the reflection of my glasses, and I'm like over here listening, being like, "Yeah, I'm gonna kill Dub while you talk over here." I am gaming in your sleep, Jin Kieran. Whenever you're thinking about gaming, I am gaming. I was gaming till 4 a.m. last night, Jin Kieran, playing new games. All of a sudden I saw tweets of these cool new games coming out, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in the Discord talking to their team. I'm playing the games. Lots of cool stuff happening in the space. I only slept for like 4 hours last night, even though I'm like extremely ill. Doesn't matter, Jin Kieran. Like I'm at the doctor's office. I'm like still on the Twitter spaces, nonstop playing games on my phone, bro. Everywhere, left and right. It doesn't ever stop. Jin Kieran, I just upgraded my PC. I got a 4080 Super in here, so watch the hell out. You think you got frames per second. I got something to show you, buddy.
Uh-huh. We'll see.
Megahertz refresh rates.
One thing I wanted to add, talking about like games shutting down, I think that this is something we haven't really discussed much in the space, but it's something that we're going to figure out over the next couple of years. I personally feel like we need to set higher standards than we've had in Web 2. And like, I think that the communities, gamers are going to kind of demand more. If you look at like, you mentioned earlier, like games that shut down and you've bought all these cosmetics, they're just gone. You don't have access to them anymore. Well, when you have NFTs involved and you can go see those on blockchain, it's going to hurt a little worse when those don't do anything, especially if they are not supported at all. And let's say that the metadata is all linking to a website and you have these tokens, but now the level, the attributes, the image, they're all just deleted because they just shut the server down that was connected to them. That's going to sting, and it's going to leave a bad impression to people that actually like the Web3 elements and they're browsing marketplaces and doing these other like side, things with assets. So I feel like that when you build a Web3 game, you have to really think about like what happens if we run out of money, if we decide not to build this game anymore, we're moving on to something else. How do we, like leave these assets to the community in an ethical way?
The way that I have usually pitched it is this is all public. The metadata is public. Anybody, you don't need permission at this point to use the NFTs. So if a project gets rugged, you could literally incentivize their community to come over and try your game by implementing their NFT in some form or fashion, whether it just be game access, an exclusive skin for that community, something along those lines. And it's kind of a joke, but it's also a possibility. I was talking about like, well, why not make a game like World of Rugcraft? Like you just take all of the rug projects and utilize their NFTs in your game somehow and just basically build a game off of rugged projects. You don't have to worry about the Web3, the contract, any of that. Like everything is already done. It's there. Just go build a game and find a way to read that metadata and find the owners, link accounts, whatever the case is, and save yourself having to build your own collections and pitch your own mints. And see what I'm saying? Like there's opportunities here for people to utilize all those projects that have gone to zero. And in the case of Aurora, this is why I have mixed feelings, because it is not necessarily going to kill the holders, because they do have their other game that the holders will now be able to use their assets in. Again, something that you don't see in Web3 or Web2. So there is a lot of possibilities here with the tech. We just need to leverage the tech more and stop focusing, reduce our focus on the financial earning ownership, because when it comes to games, that's not what majority are going to want. And I say majority because I do understand there is definitely an audience for the financial side as well. especially like I've said, it's very regional. For those that, those that know me, I understand the world. I'm a US citizen, but I understand there's more outside of the US, and there are a lot of countries really benefiting from these earning systems. I hear, especially in the Philippines, for example, I believe South Africa, or maybe even Africa as a whole, lots of various regions really, really benefiting from these systems in a financial manner. So I'm not saying get rid of it. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I want to see more focus on the gameplay, because I want something I can sink my teeth into. I want to wake up in the morning and be like, man, I can't wait to play this game, because that's what I get in Web 2. And we're seeing really, like, how do I say this? Indie developers are starting to flip the game. We've seen last Remains. Gosh, sorry, I really love that game, but they're not Web 2. Lethal Company, Power World, Helldivers 2. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Last Epoch, but I picked it up because I saw a lot of noise about it, tried it out. When I say it's a potential Diablo killer, I'm saying I have already put more hours into Last Epoch than I did Diablo 4. And that's saying something, because I grew up on Diablo. I love it to death. But this little indie $35 game has already been so much more enjoyable than the $70 Diablo 4 I bought last year. So we're starting to see much more affordable entry points in Web 2 gaming. And I think that's a big contributing factor to why these indies are blowing up, because now regions who don't like spending $60 per game, because in their region it's the equivalent of like $90 to $100, they're now buying these lower budget games that are just absolutely demolishing the AAA industry. And they're not trying to necessarily like do anything crazy. Like Helldivers 2, it's a fun game, but once you figured out the loop, like you understand that loop could have been utilized by any of these AAA industry games, and they just chose not to. It's a very simple loop, but it is so much fun. There's so much dopamine involved. And at the end of the day, that's what gamers want, right? Like, they want entertainment. They want that dopamine hit. They want to relax and escape whatever's going on in the real world. That's what gaming is to me, at least. So right now, whenever I jump into a Web3 game and it's like, oh, my carrot on a stick is I can maybe get an NFT drop, or I maybe earn some token or something like that, I'm like, well, I could just grab a second job. I don't need, like, if that's the only reason I'm playing this game is to hopefully make some money, then I'm not playing the game. I'm not enjoying it. I'm working a job. But if I play the game and the earning side is like completely aside the fact, like I'm just having fun. Again, I'm gonna promote Last Remains here. It's not because Kimberly's here. I planned it even before we invited her to the show. I really had fun with Last Remains, and I just kept playing and playing up until I got my first earning moment. And then that's whenever I stopped playing, because I was like, okay, mission accomplished. This play test was a success. I had a lot of fun. I'm gonna go test another game now. It wasn't because the game's bad. It was because I knew that my progress and everything, like the game is subject to change still. So I wanted to get my time's worth, figure out how all the systems worked, and I did. And now we got Shrapnel doing the same thing. I'm playing in their playtest, doing all their missions. Once I complete their missions, I'm done. But once these games hit 1.0 releases and I can play them every single day, I'm going to have a lot more fun. And that's, again, back to Grazlo's point. We're just early. We're still building. Everybody's testing. We don't know what's going to work 100%. These are all opinions that we're stating up here. We are not giving financial, or Kimberly might give some marketing advice. She's
Your
an actual
show is
marketer.
scripted. None of this is true. We're not legally bound. This is a narrative, fictional piece.
I don't know. I think
We're actually not here.
I think there's
none
some
of it. This is
really
all
good
AI
games.
versions of ourselves. So
It's all AI.
no legal ramifications.
Well, before we wrap up, I did want to bring up something that came up after I sent out the topic list. So just light touch. Apple revoking Epic's developer license. If you haven't heard yet, yes, Apple pulled their developer license. So now Epic can no longer build the Epic Game Store on iOS.
Yeah,
That
this
just
was
happened.
it was like the
That's
other
Like
day.
yesterday.
That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, and
Wow.
Apple, they cited like that it was basically like a threat to their ecosystem to allow this Epic to introduce these apps. It's really unfortunate. This whole battle's been going on forever now, but it's really unfortunate. I don't get Apple's position. I'm definitely with Tim Sweeney and Epic here, but this was in regards to like the lawsuit, and there's something taking effect in like a few days, I think, in Europe that is supposed to compel Apple to allow these like third-party marketplaces, but this was them kind of like shutting Epic out of that before it even started.
Well, Apple, I don't know. So I love my Apple phone. I do. I hate Apple as a company, but I do love the hardware that they provide. But now that you're telling me, like you're literally telling me, the consumer, that you get to decide what I put on my phone, I'm starting to get really hesitant about my next purchase because we're coming up on the new iPhone later this year, of course. I've paid my phone off. I'm looking to trade up, but now I'm like, I don't know. As much as I love my iPhone, I might go Android just because Apple is starting to push the boundaries and kind of be a little too controlling for their ecosystem. I don't know. I've always been of the belief that they're trying to protect consumers. Like, I understand not allowing garbage, but Epic is not that. Epic is actually something I want on my phone. I went to download Fortnite, I think it was a year or two ago, thinking that all this had been resolved and I could go download. No, Apple flat out will not let them put Fortnite back on iOS. And I didn't realize that until I went to go download it. So now I'm over here like, well, I can't play Web3 games because nobody wants to launch on Apple because of their regulations and rules. I can't play Web2 games now because of Apple regulations and their rules. Apple, you're kind of pushing the boundaries here and you're going to start losing customers. I'm just saying, this is coming from personal experience because I am legitimately considering an Android for the first time in like 8 years.
I need to have a second phone. I have to. I love Apple phones. I love all the Apple products. Well, even when I built this new PC, it took me like 2 days because it had all these errors and what crazy stuff. Wasted so much of my time. Apple doesn't waste my time, and it's just easy to use, and I love it. But that doesn't mean that I can't be extremely upset with them and be like, dude, this is completely unacceptable. Fix this. Go on. I'm literally on Tim Sweeney's tweet right now, commenting, supporting him right now, because there's nuance in the world. I can love Apple Apple's made tons of terrible decisions over the course of their thing. That doesn't mean I don't love a lot of stuff they do, but we need better. And in the future now, we have the opportunity to talk about this and have more like community power, right, to influence things, because it does matter. Apple did listen to the community when they came out with the new M1 MacBook Pros. They redid it and they gave us the inputs that we wanted. So it can happen. We just have to be really loud about it.
So I guess this is a bad time to ask Kimberly, when are we going to see Last Remains on iOS? Oh my gosh. No, I really would love to see that on iOS in some form or fashion, even if it's not the same game, like maybe a little spin-off base builder zombie apocalypse survival game. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Gods Unchained just released their app. They're officially on iOS now, which I don't know how it works with like the NFTs or anything. Like, do you get to see those in the iOS app? Because Apple, they've got some funny rules over there.
I'm not going to speak on every project and how they're all doing it. However, the Web3 games that I do play on iOS, believe it or not, I have a Web3 folder. I'm going to show you guys right now. Look at this, chain games. I got an entire folder just for on-chain games on iOS. So this is possible and developers are doing it. But the way that I usually see it done is it's connected to your account on the back end. So like if I want to buy, sell, trade, anything like that, if I want to mint a new asset, I got to go to the website, do it all there, and that's where the actual Web3 stuff is occurring, but it does show up in the game once you've done everything through the website. So I'm not sure if that's what everybody's doing, including Gods Unchained, but that's been the go-to that I've seen most companies taking.
I'm guessing that they can't link to the website from the app is probably the rule, because that's what Steam was doing for a while, right? Like you can't actually like link to anything Web3 in a Steam game.
So for anybody curious, I would recommend seeing if you can find a contact over at Mythical Games, because I don't know what they're doing different, but I can directly mint from an in-app purchase. And it's tied to my Mythical Games account on the back end. Like I can go to the website after my in-app purchase and actually see it on my account, sell it, trade it, whatever. And I don't know how they're getting around the rules. I don't know how they're doing that, but it works, and they're approved for the App Store. For anybody wondering the game name, it's called Nitro Nation. And they were the first game that I purchased in-app an NFT. Usually if I purchase in-app, it ends up not being an NFT, and I didn't realize that. Dayton Arena, and I kind of end up feeling like I wasted some money. So, you know, it is what it is. But again, Mythical Games, if you're looking for ideas on how they did it on iOS, I'd recommend finding somebody over there to talk to and figuring out what they did different.
Or you just ratted them out.
I mean, if I ratted them out, well, I mean, sorry. I doubt Apple's going to see this anyway. Let's be honest. Tim Sweeney don't care about my videos. I hope. If he does, well, I love you, Tim Sweeney. We're in your court for Epic Games versus Apple, at least.
Hey, we are. I just commented on his tweet, so there you go. Block Sauce is supporting you, Tim.
Wow. Well, did anybody have anything to add before we wrap up? I know that we are past the top of the hour. Sorry, it ran a little bit longer than usual.
Anybody going to GDC here? You guys? Braslow's going.
I'm going.
I'm not.
All right, we have. I'm personally not, but we got a couple folks going.
Look, what's important here is we need Jim Kieran at GDC, and we need him to be on the banner as you walk into GDC. You need to see a giant shot of Jim Kieran, like, I don't know, whatever, like World of Warcraft and whatever things, some gaming style, and it'd be like, this is the future of gaming right here. This man, he shaved his beard for the public to give you what you want, and he's the most knowledgeable gamer that exists in the whole world. Like, he knows what he's talking about. All right. So listen to this man. He has a cool show, and he allowed me on his show. So I'm going to just tell everyone that he's the best just because he allowed me on his show. But seriously speaking, this is the thing that's great about gaming. Eventually we're going to get there, Jim Kieran. And I don't care if I get put in jail, but we're putting that banner up at GDC somewhere. Okay. You need to send me like a cool, like, you know, portrait shot of you, and we're going to print it out at GDC and like put it up, you know, and be like Web3 gaming, and just put your picture, you know, your thing right there.
Oh man.
We're going to do it. All right.
I'm actually surprised how many people have reached out to me. Hey, you going to GDC? You going to GDC? It's like, I wish, but unfortunately I'm in the boat, and I hate to out myself here a little bit. I have to be able to afford to go to these things before I can go to these things. Unfortunately, I'm not flipping coins and making the money that everybody else in Web3 is. So, you know, I still got my 9 to 5. And unfortunately, time off and cutting paychecks, stuff like that has to be kind of coordinated. Like, ETH Denver is a bit more feasible because it's in my state, so I can drive out there and it's not so bad. But the events outside of Colorado, sorry guys, maybe one day. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe next year.
Crypto gaming. We're going to do it, JK.
Fingers crossed.
Do it.
Fingers crossed. I mean, I am trying to get into Web3 full time. I'm looking for opportunities. So
games, work with, hire Jim Kieran. Who out there is not hiring Jim Kieran? I need to have a meeting with you right now. I'm going to grab you by the collar and be like, hire this man.
So real talk for a moment. Real talk for a moment. I have actually had opportunities come across in the past, but I have a very job secure situation where they basically can't fire me, right? Going from a stable job to a risky job has always been a thing for me. I'm very hesitant, but you know, this is the year where I feel like more risks need to be taken. Doing the same thing isn't going to cause a change in my life. And that's my words of wisdom for everybody. If you're doing the same thing every day, don't expect anything to change. You have to make changes. You have to take risks. And sometimes, yeah, you might fail. You know what? Dust your knees off, get back up, and go try again. That's what I'm gonna. That's my mentality.
I heard last week has saved
man.
up a huge advertising budget to spend on Jim Kieran, so it's like really convenient. You know, they just been saving up all that monies.
Well, we'll see what happens. I'm a critic a lot of the time, and I can be a little harsh. I understand that, but I do see the technology. I see the promise here. I love gaming, always have. I rag on Web 2 just as much as I do Web 3. Don't worry, guys. It's not that I'm hating on Web 3, but I want to see us do stuff right. And there are games out here doing stuff right, and that's why I have no issues and no hesitation to bring them up here and like talk about them. Again, we hit up on Shrapnel. We've talked about Metalcore. We've talked about Oldor, Last Remains. And it's only going to grow from here, I hope. I hope that there are more games that I can feel comfortable being like, yes, you guys should go try this. It's safe. I'm willing to put my name on it, right? And think that's kind of where my criticism comes from, is the first game I attached my name to, I got burned on. So I started being a bit more picky. Graslow probably knows exactly who I'm talking about too. So it sucks.
Hey,
but that, again,
crypto gaming, let's go.
that's part of the game. I've attached my name to Web 2 games that shut down too. So it's not like this is a Web 3 specific
Let's
problem.
get back
This
on
is
track.
gaming.
Crypto gaming, let's go. You were doing a really good riz on crypto gaming, the charisma.
It's trial and error for all of us. Content creators.
Just cut out that
builders.
last part where you like were anti-riz, pro-riz, crypto gaming, let's go. And then money just comes out.
Okay, Doug, we got to wrap it up. I know people got to
I
go.
hope someone makes a meme of that, please.
Somebody probably will. I know Rod and his editors, and we get memed on quite a bit over here. Graslow.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Whatever helps the show.
Whatever else.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be a wrap for us today. This is another great episode of the Block Sauce. But before we come to a close, of course, we have to thank all of our panelists. Make sure you guys go follow them on Twitter. Graslow, Doug, Kimberly, they're on our tweet. If you're not following the Block Sauce, well, that's
I'm the
your
short
mistake.
one.
You're the short one. I mean, when I met you at Eat Denver, us standing next to each other, I do make you look kind of short. I'm just saying.
How tall are you? Like 6'3"?
Close.
Yeah. I'm a robust 6 feet tall.
Yeah, that's what you want to think. Maybe with your platform shoes on.
All right.
He's about to pull up
well,
his shoes. Oh,
I'm
man.
just riding my horse around. This is what I do, actually. I just mount it up.
But of course, we couldn't have done this without all of our amazing viewers and supporters. Your guys' passion fuel our drive to bring you the hottest topics and thought-provoking conversations week after week. Remember, sauce never stops flowing. Follow us on social media. I don't have our website to advertise for you yet because I haven't gotten the green light from our producer to start advertising that again. But you guys know where to find us. Follow us on YouTube. Follow these guys, gals, whatever you there we go, that direction. Oh man, but that's gonna be it for us today, sauce enthusiasts. Join us next time for another thrilling episode of the Block Sauce, where we'll keep the gaming flame alive and the discussion sizzling. Stay saucy and keep gaming in the exciting realm of Web3. And next week we have another special guest, so yeah, make sure you tune in. Thank you guys, have a good one, and goodbye.
Crypto gaming, let's go.